Imagine, in an instant, the freedom to read what you believe being taken away. It sounds distant, almost unimaginable, doesn't it? Yet, for millions, this is the cost of possessing a Bible. In 7 countries, simply holding this sacred book can mean a sentence of imprisonment, torture, or even death. These nations share something in common. They see the Bible's transformative power as a threat. Each story invites us to reflect deeply on the privilege of religious freedom. Get ready, because the last country will surprise you and shift your perspective on what it means to live faith freely. In North Korea, religion isn't just unwelcome, it's seen as a threat to the very fabric of the regime. Imagine a place where even a whisper of faith can lead to forced labor, public shaming, or worse. Under Kim Jong-un's rule, any form of religious belief is seen as a direct challenge to authority, as it promotes loyalty to something greater than the regime. Possessing a Bible here isn't a private act of faith, but a dangerous statement against the state. This reality makes North Korea one of the most hostile places for religious expression. Owning a Bible in North Korea can lead to punishment as severe as forced labor in harsh camps, often for decades. Just the idea of being caught with a Bible is enough to keep many believers in fear, living in constant secrecy. Yet, some risk everything to hold on to this book, knowing the consequences that could follow. This act isn't taken lightly. It's done with the knowledge that any slip could lead to brutal repercussions. For North Koreans, each word read or shared carries the weight of sacrifice and unwavering commitment. For those caught with a Bible, the punishment is rarely just their own to bear. Family members, even young children, can be taken away, labeled as traitors by association. The regime's approach is ruthless, ensuring that the cost of faith isn't borne by one individual, but by entire families. This tactic creates a climate of fear, making people hesitant to even speak of faith. Yet, in the face of this risk, underground churches continue to gather, whispering prayers and verses that give them strength. The Bible, in these hidden rooms, is a lifeline as much as a symbol of resistance. Imagine the quiet bravery required to pass a Bible along in secret, knowing each transfer could lead to unimaginable punishment. In a place where even personal thoughts are controlled, owning a Bible is a daring stand for personal freedom. Believers often hide their Bibles in walls, under floorboard, or in other clever spots, hoping that one day they can read without fear. This act of hiding becomes more than a precaution. It's a ritual of hope and resilience, a reminder that faith can't be buried as easily as a book can. In North Korea, religious expression, even in silence, speaks volumes. Each prayer whispered in the dark, each hidden page turned, represents a defiance that can't be fully silenced. For North Korean Christians, the Bible offers strength in a place where freedom feels impossible. This underground faith defies a regime that aims to control every aspect of life, showing that faith, though small and hidden, holds a power the state fears. It's a paradox. The more the government tries to ban faith, the more powerful that faith becomes to those who hold it. For the rest of the world, North Korea's treatment of religion offers a striking perspective on freedom. It's easy to overlook the liberty to read, believe, or gather without fear. Yet for those under the regime, this freedom is unimaginable. Understanding these stories sheds light on the resilience of human belief and the power of the Bible in places where faith is outlawed. The journey into religious oppression continues, from North Korea's iron grip to the strict religious policies of Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, religious life is strictly governed by Wahhabism, a branch of Islam that enforces a rigid interpretation of faith and law. Here, religious diversity is not tolerated, and faith expressions outside of Islam are seen as offenses. Owning a Bible or engaging in Christian practices is not just discouraged, it's punishable by law. This isn't a private restriction, it's one enforced through the Mutawa, Saudi Arabia's religious police. Their role is to maintain religious order, though for Christians, this often translates into constant vigilance and limited freedom. The Mutawa are responsible for monitoring public behavior and religious expression, ensuring that anything perceived as non-Islamic is quickly shut down. Imagine the tension of knowing that carrying a Bible could mean harassment, confiscation, or even imprisonment. This isn't a hypothetical fear for many Christians. It's their daily reality. The Bible is a symbol of faith and, in this context, a dangerous possession that could lead to serious consequences. Believers must tread carefully, often hiding their faith in plain sight to avoid detection. Many Christians in Saudi Arabia gather secretly, relying on trust and discretion to share and worship. Picture this: a small group meeting in a private home, sharing scripture in whispers, always mindful of who might be watching. For these individuals, the Bible isn't just a religious book, it's a vital source of community and strength. They've learned to be creative, sometimes sharing scripture digitally or using code words to maintain their connection to their faith. Every meeting, every verse shared becomes an act of courage, a quiet pushback against restriction. Interestingly, in the privacy of their own spaces, Christians often find ways to hold on to their beliefs, whether by memorizing verses or keeping digital Bibles hidden in password-protected files. The digital age has offered new avenues, though each one comes with its risks. For instance, a digital Bible can be deleted, but if found, it could still lead to severe repercussions. The internet may offer some refuge, but even there, caution is a necessity. These believers walk a delicate line, trying to keep faith alive without crossing into danger. The stakes are particularly high for foreign Christians who live or work in Saudi Arabia. They often arrive with their faith as part of their identity, only to find it questioned or outright restricted. Owning a Bible could lead to questions or worse, making even a symbol of faith feel like a contraband item. Yet these individuals often bring a resilience with them, quietly practicing their beliefs in small, thoughtful ways. For them, the Bible serves as a reminder of their roots, an anchor in an otherwise restrictive environment. Saudi Arabia's strict control over religious expression reminds us that faith is often strongest when most suppressed. Christians here don't just carry Bibles, they carry a belief system that, by its nature, challenges a regime of strict conformity. It's a reality that creates an intense, though often invisible, struggle for freedom. Moving forward, we'll see how this fight for faith plays out in another nation with unique challenges: Maldives, where Islam is not just dominant but legally exclusive. In the Maldives, the law leaves no room for religious diversity. Islam is the only officially recognized faith. For Maldivians, practicing any other religion publicly is against the law, leading to strict consequences. Those who attempt to follow or share another faith risk social rejection, legal penalties, or worse. Imagine living in a place where faith is defined for you, with no choice to explore others. The idea of carrying a Bible or discussing its teachings is seen as a challenge to national identity, making religious expression nearly impossible for Christians. For Christians in the Maldives, practicing their beliefs often means living under a veil of secrecy. There's no opportunity to meet publicly for worship or to openly own a Bible. Instead, faith is a private, almost hidden part of life, shared cautiously with those they deeply trust. Every act of worship requires careful consideration and discretion, as exposure could lead to severe social backlash or legal trouble. The Bible, in this context, becomes a precious but concealed possession, representing a quiet resilience in a country with strict religious boundaries. Even as tourism flourishes, bringing visitors of diverse backgrounds, the Maldives maintains a tight hold on religious expression for its citizens. Foreign visitors might bring their Bibles or religious items, but these must remain strictly personal and unseen by locals. For Maldivians, the consequences of any perceived religious deviation are real and immediate, often resulting in discrimination or isolation. This dynamic creates a unique tension, where religious freedoms exist for tourists but are denied to residents. For Christians, this means living in a paradox, where freedom appears close, yet remains out of reach. In private, many Christians practice by memorizing verses or accessing the Bible digitally. This isn't an easy feat, as even online access is monitored, requiring them to use caution in their expressions of faith. Imagine reading scripture on a screen, closing it quickly at any sound, or discussing faith only in the quietest whispers. In the Maldives, this discretion is more than habit. It's survival. The digital world offers some relief, but not without risk, making each interaction with scripture a careful, measured step. Social rejection in the Maldives can be as impactful as legal consequences, isolating those who express beliefs outside of Islam. Faith becomes a private struggle, one where the Bible holds meaning beyond words. It becomes a connection to something larger, something hopeful. Christians here live between two worlds, the one they must portray publicly and the one they hold privately. This silent balancing act reflects the resilience of faith, showing that belief often grows strongest where it is least welcome. Looking at the Maldives' strict religious policies, we gain insight into the lengths people will go to preserve their faith. Each scripture read, each moment of worship shared in secret, reveals a strength that can't be dictated by law. While Islam dominates openly, other beliefs survive quietly, showing that freedom can exist even under the heaviest of restrictions. Moving from the Maldives to Somalia, we'll explore a different form of persecution, one where faith and survival collide in deeply dangerous ways. Incredible, isn't it? Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these stories has shocked you the most so far? Drop a comment below. Let's see what everyone's thinking as we explore these stories together. In Somalia, identifying as a Christian isn't just a quiet struggle. It's a life or death risk. Al-Shabaab, an extremist group in control of significant parts of the country, has made it their mission to eliminate Christianity entirely. For Christians here, even the smallest sign of faith, like owning a Bible, can attract fatal consequences. Living under this threat changes every aspect of daily life, turning faith into a secret that must be protected at all costs. Imagine needing to hide every hint of belief to avoid suspicion or worse, execution. The Bible, in this context, becomes an unimaginable luxury, something that few dare to possess. Even a whispered prayer or discreet gathering can be enough to warrant a deadly response from Al-Shabaab. For Somali Christians, each act of worship must be carefully concealed, with only the most trusted confidants knowing of their beliefs. They live under a constant watch, mindful that any slip could lead to grave repercussions. Faith, for them, isn't just personal. It's a guarded secret, shared only in whispers and shadows. In these conditions, Christians must develop a resilience that goes beyond words. Imagine relying solely on memory for scripture, reciting verses silently to avoid detection. Many rely on coded language or subtle gestures to communicate their faith, creating a hidden network of support that's as fragile as it is essential. Al-Shabaab's presence forces these believers to redefine how they practice faith, relying on each other and the smallest acts of worship. In this environment, the Bible becomes more than a book. It's a symbol of their very survival. Despite the risks, underground Christian communities continue to form, meeting in extreme secrecy. These groups are a source of strength, offering moments of solace and connection in a place where faith is forbidden. Imagine gathering with others in absolute silence, knowing that each shared scripture, each prayer, could be your last. For these believers, the Bible offers a form of unity and hope that defies the violence around them. It's a reminder that, even in the darkest places, faith persists in small but powerful ways. Foreign aid workers and missionaries, while rare in Somalia, sometimes face similar threats, often targeted by Al-Shabaab for promoting foreign beliefs. This presence, though limited, serves as a reminder of the outside world's awareness and support. For local Christians, knowing that others recognize their plight can be a profound source of hope. The Bible, when shared through these connections, becomes a bridge between Somali Christians and a broader global faith. It's a testament to resilience, even under extreme persecution. Somalia's harsh treatment of Christians serves as a powerful reminder of the strength required to hold on to faith under threat. Each believer here embodies a courage that few can imagine, living by convictions that could cost them everything. As we move forward, the story of faith under pressure unfolds further in Afghanistan, where the recent return of the Taliban has rekindled an intense persecution of Christians. In Afghanistan, the re-establishment of Taliban rule has plunged Christians into an era of renewed fear and suppression. For Christians, even a hint of faith can lead to life-threatening consequences, as the Taliban maintains strict control over religious practices. The Bible, a symbol of belief and hope, is considered forbidden and dangerous. This isn't just a restriction. It's a direct threat to anyone attempting to practice Christianity. Imagine the anxiety of knowing that owning or discussing the Bible could result in fatal consequences under constant Taliban surveillance. The Taliban's approach is unforgiving, with any sign of Christian belief being met with harsh penalties. For Afghan Christians, their faith has become a guarded secret, carefully hidden from view. Attending any sort of gathering or even mentioning Christianity requires complete trust and silence, as even the slightest slip could be reported. This secrecy isn't merely a precaution, it's a way of life that demands caution in every interaction. The Bible, in this environment, is a source of inner strength, but one that must be protected like a buried treasure. Many Afghan Christians rely solely on their memory to carry the words of the Bible, reciting scripture silently to themselves. There are no physical copies, no digital files, just words stored in the heart. Faith in Afghanistan is a deeply personal experience, practiced in isolation but cherished in private moments. These believers live with the knowledge that their convictions could put them at odds with the authorities. Yet, even under this pressure, they find ways to nurture their spirituality, making faith a part of their daily lives, no matter the cost. Afghanistan's underground Christian community is small, but it's resilient, built on trust and the need for companionship in a hostile environment. Picture a handful of believers meeting in hidden places, sharing scripture in whispers and guarded glances. These gatherings may be brief, but they offer a sense of connection that helps sustain faith. The Bible, for these individuals, is more than a book. It's a reminder that they are not alone, that others share their beliefs, even if only in the quietest of ways. Each gathering is a rare yet powerful act of resistance. In a place where faith is controlled, the smallest act of belief becomes an act of courage. For Afghan Christians, owning a Bible is unimaginable. They rely instead on the strength found within, turning to mental verses as a source of hope. The commitment they hold to their beliefs, despite the risks, demonstrates a level of bravery that transcends the restrictions placed upon them. This courage becomes a testament to the human spirit's resilience, reminding us that belief can thrive, even under the strictest of regimes. The situation in Afghanistan highlights the severe costs of religious persecution, reminding us of the freedoms that many may take for granted. As we look to the next country, Pakistan, the theme of restriction continues, where blasphemy laws are often used to intimidate religious minorities, particularly Christians. This journey through faith under fire reveals a strength that persists, no matter the odds. In Pakistan, religious minorities, particularly Christians, face a daunting barrier: blasphemy laws. These laws are often used to intimidate or punish anyone accused of offending religious sentiments, a charge that can be vague and easily manipulated. Imagine the fear of having a Bible and knowing that it could be seen as an insult, a provocation that might lead to arrest or violence. For Christians here, even holding this book comes with a risk, a constant reminder that their faith is scrutinized and marginalized. The blasphemy laws are a powerful tool, often used to target Christians under loosely defined accusations. For a Christian in Pakistan, even a simple conversation about the Bible could be enough to invite accusations. These laws make it easy for anyone with a grievance to make a claim, leading to social isolation, legal issues, or worse. Living under such pressure makes faith a quiet and cautious affair, where the Bible is both a source of strength and a potential source of trouble. It's a reality that forces believers to walk a fine line every day. To navigate this, many Pakistani Christians practice their faith with extreme caution, meeting in private and avoiding any public mention of Scripture. Picture gathering in hidden spaces, where reading a Bible is a whispered, cautious act. For these believers, each page turned represents both a connection to their faith and a risk they willingly take. They find ways to nurture their beliefs without attracting unwanted attention, making every act of worship a delicate, strategic choice. It's faith under pressure, yet somehow it flourishes. Despite the risks, the Bible remains a precious possession, passed quietly from one person to another, often hidden in creative ways. Imagine storing a Bible in a cloth bag, tucked beneath everyday items to avoid suspicion. These believers have adapted to the reality of living under constant scrutiny, developing methods to keep their faith alive without crossing boundaries. For them, each hidden Bible is a testament to their commitment, a quiet defiance against an oppressive environment. The consequences of these laws are not just legal but deeply personal, impacting families, communities, and relationships. A single accusation can lead to ostracism or even force families to relocate, as the stigma often sticks regardless of the outcome. Yet, in the face of this social and legal adversity, Christians in Pakistan find strength in each other and in their faith. For them, the Bible is a guiding light, a constant source of courage that empowers them to continue in the face of hardship. Pakistan's religious climate reveals a complicated balance between faith and survival, a dance between belief and caution. It's a reminder that freedom to worship should never be taken for granted, especially when others must fight so hard for that right. As we move on to Iran, we'll see how this struggle continues, with Christians facing severe repression and state monitoring. In Iran, converting to Christianity is seen as a betrayal of national and religious identity, leading to severe repercussions for those who take this path. The state closely monitors Christian converts, viewing their faith as a threat to the country's religious structure. Imagine knowing that every aspect of your faith, every prayer, every gathering, is watched, with punishment looming at the slightest misstep. For Iranian Christians, possessing a Bible can mean a swift and brutal response, making faith an act of courage and defiance. The reality of state monitoring in Iran creates an environment where Christians must always be cautious. The government often targets homes, conducts surprise inspections, and follows leads to detect any religious activity. For converts, this vigilance feels invasive, a constant pressure that turns their personal beliefs into dangerous secrets. The Bible, in this setting, is more than a book. It's a risk, a test of commitment that could lead to imprisonment or worse. This makes practicing Christianity an extraordinary challenge, forcing believers to hide their faith even from neighbors and sometimes family. Despite these risks, underground churches thrive in Iran, creating a hidden network of support for believers. These communities, though small and often scattered, provide solace and a sense of belonging, meeting in private homes to read scripture and pray together. Picture a group huddling in a small room, each person aware of the potential danger outside. Here, the Bible becomes a unifying force, a lifeline that offers comfort and strength. These gatherings are filled with both fear and resilience, as each member knows that faith comes with a high price. In this climate, Christians in Iran rely heavily on memory, committing verses to heart as a way to protect themselves. With physical Bibles too dangerous to keep openly, memorization becomes an essential part of worship. It's a practical adaptation, but also a profound act of devotion, as each verse internalized becomes a source of strength. This mental preservation of Scripture highlights a unique relationship with faith, where belief is carried in the heart, beyond the reach of state control. Unfortunately, for those who are caught, the consequences are severe. Cases of torture, psychological pressure, and threats against family members are not uncommon, all in an effort to force renouncement of faith. The government's repressive tactics are designed to break spirits, but for many, they have the opposite effect, deepening the resolve to hold on to their beliefs. This strength in the face of such tactics speaks to the resilience of Iranian Christians, showing that their faith is more than just ritual, it's survival and identity. The struggle of Iranian Christians is a powerful reminder of the cost of religious freedom and the resilience required to sustain faith under oppression. It's a glimpse into the courage needed to keep believing when belief itself is dangerous. As we look toward the final reflection, we'll consider the importance of religious freedom and the value of having access to the Bible without fear. As you reflect on the stories of these 7 countries, ask yourself, how would you live your faith under the same restrictions? These accounts of courage remind us of the immense value of religious freedom, something many of us have without a second thought. If you're ready to keep exploring the impact of faith across the globe, click on the video appearing on your screen now. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our powerful stories on faith and freedom.